Good morning, EDU U611 class. I hope your master's paper went as well as mine. Mine is on teaching games for understanding and the ability and learning how and when to best choose TGFU for best practices. TGFU is a specific model for PE that kind of changes the dynamic of how PE is focused in the model. You can tell from when it's being used through application when there is a shortened instruction time, increased amount of time for practice and skill application, and then where it really shines is in its closure and its directed questions that kind of help students discover what you want them to learn, or what they discover what they have learned is truly what when you get your questions down right. Anyways, the importance of this is because of the current problem we have with creating reasons for student engagement. Student engagement in PE is really paramount for keeping a safe learning environment. Students' work is always public because they are engaging in physical activity. And when it comes to that level of engagement and whatnot, we are in a way competing with the practices that our students are being conditioned through electronic devices. Electronic devices give students achievements, some kind of value to what they've done quickly through social media, video games, and the like. This, however, doesn't have to be in opposition to PE or in education. We can actually take what this kind of feedback loop, the positive feedback loop that kids get from the electronic devices, and use it for education. And that's kind of what I hope to show that TGFU provides. And it provides that through ways of creating a novel experience, engagement, and discovery of learning. My research question is, how does implementing teaching games for understanding method better facilitate modern learners' engagement, on-task behaviors, and reaching or exceeding fitness standards? As I mentioned before, the limited instruction time helps students to not use up all their restraint in class. And when I mean that is, in most classes, students are sitting at desks, they're restraining all their actions and trying to focus as best they can on the subject matter to success or not success at times. And with that in mind, when we get to PE, there is an expectation of movement and exercise and physical activity and loudness and all those things we expect to be able to do when we are being physically active. So by using this method, we kind of honor that expectation on both ends. I expect students to move, then they expect to be moved. And then on-task behaviors in a TGFU model allows quick ways to add challenges, but in reality, it's students with these novel rules and this novel game, the modified game, allows students to have a game they've already played, but with the alterations, make it a little different and make them have to kind of puzzle their way through how to get to it. And then when we ask the questions, again, they will discover the lesson we were trying to get to learn. But that increased amount of focus of time on the actual physical activity is where we get that increased fitness standards and increased outcomes for their standards of education as far as psychomotor, cognitive, and affective domains are concerned. For reaching standards, the work of Gouveia is best in explaining how students are not just participating in, for instance, if they were on a playing game and they were just kind of walking and not really taking it too serious, that happens, right? And that's not maybe going to get them to what we consider moderate vigorous activity. But through this use of modified games, students are encouraged and incentivized to participate fully in the games and get to that moderate, vigorous physical level. For those who may not know, that's kind of like when you remember the heart zones or some kind of fitness zones. That's what we mean. That to liken it as something you might recognize is that moderate, vigorous activity is where students' fitness levels are rising and they're getting better at things. The methodology will use 4 classes, where 2 classes are kind of controls on opposite polar ends. You have the sports model, which is probably what you experienced in PE, and the TGFU model throughout the whole cycle. And then there'll be 2 hybrids classes that one will have the sports model to the TGFU model and the TGFU to sports model, and they will actually switch halfway through to show the effects that each one has on the movement of students' abilities and fitness levels and other standards. Throughout that process, the teacher will have interviews and surveys done to see how they feel, because again, we want these teachers to feel as they have those resources and find what's the best fit for when they have the issue of order in a classroom. And this kind of research, doing this kind of research has helped me learn that if I have a problem in a class or I have a challenge that I'm facing, there's research that's been done on it and research I can add to it by trying to figure out a new idea or even testing an old idea to see how effective it can be as time moves on and as society and cultures change within children and in education. I have got a lot of empowerment from doing this master's program. Thank you.